Please welcome to the stage JFCS East Bay CEO, Reuben Mencher.
Good morning, everyone. All right, we have a long, really important day today, so we've got to find our energy. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, thank you. Jewish Family and Community Services East Bay is a long-standing, proud member of Jewish California and currently serving on the Jewish California board with great pride. We're also dedicated, proud members of the Network of Jewish Human Service Agencies, or the Network for short. And this morning, I have the pleasure of introducing all of us in this room today to Reuben Rotman, the President and CEO of NJHSA, or the Network. For almost the past decade, Reuben has built an international network of agencies, Jewish human service agencies, that serve both the broader Jewish community and the wider community at large, aligned with the advocacy roles of Jewish California. The network works to strengthen the Jewish human service sector. Today, the network is the leading voice of all of our work, all of the JFSs and JFCSs across California, across the country, across North America, as well as many other organizations within California, within Canada, and within Israel. In fact, the network supports over 180 member organizations. The goal is to strengthen all of our work together, to build coalitions, and to advocate for policies at the national and state levels that advance the needs and the interests with all of the people we partner with here in the state of California and beyond. Reuben Rotman comes to this leadership role with the network after decades of experience in the Jewish human service sector, most recently leading efforts in New Jersey. He brings the vision of this sector to other national nonprofits as he serves on the board of several national organizations. And Reuben, most importantly, leads by example with just the right mix of strategy, action, inclusion, and compassion. We know also that Jewish Human Services is at the core of the work that we are up to today as Jewish California. It turns out that over 30% of all member organizations in Jewish California are also part of the network of Jewish human service agencies. As we work together, we build stronger communities and we build a stronger state. So please join with me in welcoming Reuben Rotman to the Capitol Summit today.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jewish California, for having me here today. It is truly an honor to be here among leaders who care deeply about the future of our communities and who are doing the hard work to shape it. As Robin shared, I come to you representing the Network of Jewish Human Service Agencies, a collective of over 180 nonprofit organizations throughout the US, Canada, and Israel. You could think of the network as the backbone behind the agencies that feed, house, counsel, and support people through every kind of crisis facing our communities. We connect, we convene, we advocate, and we amplify. Every day, network agencies are on the front lines of serving children and families, refugees, and individuals with disabilities. The agencies of the network support Holocaust survivors and older adults needing resources to age in place safely, help families put food on the table, provide mental health care, prevent crises before they unfold, and respond to them when they do. I want to begin by recognizing that California members of our network who are here with us today are partners in this work. Jewish Family Services of Silicon Valley, Jewish Family and Community Services of East Bay, Jewish Family Service of the Desert, ETA of Los Angeles, Jewish Federation of the Sacramento region, JQ International, Jewish Family Service of San Diego, Jewish Family and Children's Services of San Francisco, the Peninsula, Marin and Sonoma counties, Bethsedec Legal Services, JVS SoCal, and Jewish Family Service Los Angeles. Thank you for the work each of you do every day. You represent the very best of what our sector can be and in fact is. Right now, we are facing a moment when the systems that support millions of people are being fundamentally weakened. The federal legislation known as H.R. 1, which was signed into law on July 4th, is not just a policy shift. It is a fundamental break in the social contract between the federal government and the social safety net, with ripple effects already being felt by the communities represented in this room. Because when healthcare access is reduced, when food assistance is cut, when funding streams for nonprofits shrink, people do not disappear. They simply turn to those agencies in increasing numbers. And the question we face today is how to ensure that this network of hundreds of agencies, and we are a growing network. We typically welcome 1 to 2 new members each month. How can we ensure that these organizations have the capacity to meet that increased need with reduced government funding? First, we must confront anti-Semitism and hate head-on. We are fortunate to have colleagues like David and the team at Jewish California, the ADL, colleagues from Jewish federations and JCRCs, and others who are helping guide the field with research, advocacy, strategy, and a clear voice on how to address this growing threat. And network agencies are also partners in that effort. They serve as ambassadors within communities, supporting those directly impacted and helping individuals and families navigate the mental health challenges, the fear, the trauma, the anxiety, the uncertainty which result from acts of anti-Semitism. Because while anti-Semitism is being analyzed at the national level, it is being experienced locally every single day. It shows up in our communities, on the Little League field, in workplaces, in community centers, in our organizations and in programs, in the lives of the people we serve, which is why it requires more than just awareness. It requires comprehensive investment in security, workforce training, and the systems that support vulnerable populations who are often most impacted. This cannot be addressed in silos, and it cannot be addressed without partnership. We need coordinated support from both state and federal governments to ensure that the organizations on the front lines have the resources they need to not only respond, but to prevent and to protect. Second, we must strengthen the nonprofit sector because H.R. 1 is increasing demand while reducing support. Across the country, nonprofits are already stretched. And under H.R. 1, that pressure has begun to intensify. Cuts to programs like Medi-Cal in California and CalFresh in California are leaving more people without health care or food security. Right here in this state, 3.5 million Californians are estimated to lose access to Medi-Cal, while 750,000 are estimated to completely lose access to CalFresh, SNAP, with another 3 million households seeing reduced benefits. At the same time, changes to charitable giving incentives are expected to reduce donations to nonprofits, making it harder to fund the very services people will need now more than ever. This is the core tension of the moment we are in. More need and fewer resources, and higher expectations on the nonprofit sector to fill the gap while under threat. If you want to understand what that looks like in real life, you don't need to imagine it. You saw it in this state in Los Angeles during the wildfires. In the face of crisis, network agencies working in coordination across the Jewish community with the leadership of JFSLA and the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles stepped in immediately to provide food, shelter, trauma support, and navigation through chaos. At JFSLA, that work continues long after the headlines fade, as the organization helps local families rebuild, access resources, and regain a sense of stability. This is what nonprofits do, but they cannot absorb systemic policy shifts without systemic investment. We need to move beyond short-term funding models and towards sustained investment in infrastructure, workforce, and coordination. Because when nonprofits are weakened, communities do not become more efficient, they become more fragile. Third, we must address housing and food security because H.R. 1 is threatening both. H.R. 1 includes the largest cuts to SNAP in history, reducing access to food assistance and shifting costs to states. It also introduces new work requirements and barriers that are disproportionately impacting older adults, caregivers, and individuals already struggling to maintain stability. That means more families are being pushed into crisis. And again, they turn to network agencies. We are already seeing solutions in action. Organizations like ETA in Los Angeles are creating supportive housing models in which individuals with disabilities can live with independence and dignity in their communities. JFS San Diego is advancing permanent supportive housing, pairing stable housing with case management, employment support, and long-term services to help people get housed and to stay housed. This is what effective policy should support. We need policies that expand access to housing, that protect food security programs, and that recognize dignity as a baseline, not a privilege for a few. Because when housing and food security are weakened, everything else begins to unravel. But when we get them right, everything else becomes possible. Fourth, we must protect funding and support for refugee and newcomer services because the downstream impact of these policies is instability and trauma. Across the nation, and especially here in California, so many of our member agencies operate critical programs that support refugees, immigrants, and newcomers, helping individuals and families rebuild their lives, navigate complex systems, access employment, and find stability in entirely new environments. But these programs have already faced significant cuts. And the reality is simple. When funding is reduced, services do not become less necessary. The need does not go away. It only grows. When people lose access to resettlement support, legal assistance, and case management, the impact goes far beyond economics. It's emotional, it's psychological, it's generational. Families are left to navigate systems alone. Opportunities for stability are delayed and vulnerability deepens. So many of network agencies are already seeing this strain, especially among families trying to establish safety and stability in a new country while facing increasing barriers to support. Without sustained investment in refugee and newcomer services, we are not preventing crisis. We are simply delaying it and making it harder to resolve when it arrives. And finally, we must strengthen workforce support and inclusion because H.R. 1 is reshaping who has access to opportunities. Expanded work requirements for programs like SNAP and Medicaid, which now impact older adults and vulnerable populations, will create new barriers to stability. At the same time, changes in student loan systems and workforce pathways will make it harder for people to enter and remain in behavioral health care-focused careers. This is not just about employment, it's about access to opportunity. And we know what works. Through Project M, The network established a national model that connects job seekers to career pathways, training, and employer networks. Through Project M, our network is serving all ages and career industries, and dedicated funding is enabling Project M to lean into specialized services for older adults, individuals with disabilities, and underserved populations from across the country. Right here in California, JVS SoCal is helping lead that work with Project M. Their program is what workforce inclusion looks like when it's done right. But if policy creates more barriers than pathways, even the strongest programs cannot keep up. We need policies that expand access to work, not restrict it. We need policies that support workforce development, not complicate it, and policies that recognize how economic participation is foundational to community stability. I'll leave you with this. In the Jewish tradition, we are taught, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh. All of Israel is responsible for one another. At the network, we see that responsibility lived out every day, not just within the Jewish community, but in service to our broader society. Today, we will be advocating, you will be advocating directly to state lawmakers. When you walk into those legislative offices, you are not walking in alone. You are walking in as part of this group with the weight and strength of millions of people behind you. You are their voices. And beyond this week, consider volunteering with one of the agencies you heard named today. Consider investing in the work of Jewish California all year long, not just at the summit. And consider engaging in the network's national advocacy work. Every act of advocacy is amplified, and every dollar is multiplied across dozens of agencies and millions of clients. The question before us is not whether the need is great. We know it is. The question is whether we will meet it with the urgency, the coordination, and the commitment it demands, and I believe we can. I know we can. And I am grateful to be in this work with each of you. Thank you.